The Forbidden Night. The night was quiet on the moon called Velernine. The stars above were brighter than usual, and two moons hung in the sky like silver coins. In a hidden corner of the base camp, far away from the rest of the soldiers and guards, sat a young alien girl named Sailari. Sailari was not like other alien girls. She was part of the Varelian Empire, a proud and powerful race that believed emotions were weak and love was dangerous. Her smooth violet skin shimmered under the moonlight, and her glowing eyes were filled with confusion. Next to her sat a human soldier named Daniel. He was tall, strong, and kind. His face was bruised, his shirt torn, but his smile still reached his eyes. They had just survived a brutal attack together. The enemy had tried to kill them, but they had fought side by side and saved each other's lives. Now, there was silence between them. "Why did you save me?" Sailari asked softly, her voice barely a whisper. Daniel looked at her and smiled gently. "Because you saved me first." She looked away. Her people would never understand this moment. Touch between species was forbidden. Intimacy with a human, it was considered a crime. "You shouldn't have," she whispered. "I don't care about rules," Daniel replied. "You're not my enemy. Not anymore." There was something in his voice, honest, warm, and full of emotion. Sailari had never heard such a thing from her own kind. Virelians were cold, logical. They didn't believe in love. But here she was, sitting inches away from a human man who made her feel more alive than she had ever felt. Daniel reached out his hand slowly. Sailari didn't move. She let him touch her fingers. His skin was warm. "You're shaking," he said gently. "I'm not afraid of you," she replied. "But you're afraid of what this means." She nodded. Then, without thinking, she leaned in. He did the same. Their lips met in a kiss that was gentle but full of feeling. It was the first time she had ever kissed someone with her heart, not just her mind. The stars above watched silently as they held each other under the alien sky. They didn't speak much after that. Words were not needed. Their actions spoke louder. When morning came, the soft blue light of dawn washed over their bodies. Sailari sat up, her eyes wide with fear. Reality had returned. She looked at Daniel, still sleeping peacefully. She touched his face once and whispered, "Forgive me." Then she slipped away into the trees. Daniel woke up alone. He sat up quickly. "Sailari," he called. There was no answer. He searched the area but found nothing. No footprints, no trace of her. It was like she had vanished. Confused and hurt, he returned to the camp. No one had seen her. The command center had no record of her departure. It was as if the Virelian girl he had loved for one night had never existed. 3 days later, a message arrived from the Virelian side. It said the peace talks were canceled. No reason was given. Daniel was angry, but more than that, he was heartbroken. What he didn't know was that Sailari had been taken by her own people. They had found out about the night she spent with a human, and they were furious. Sailari was dragged in front of the Varelian High Council. Her head was bowed. She didn't speak. Her heart was still full of the memory of Daniel, but she knew the punishment for what she had done could be severe, even death. "You have shamed your bloodline," the High Leader growled. Sailari stayed quiet, but something strange was already happening inside her, something no one had expected. Her body was changing. Her blood was no longer fully Varelian. And back on Earth, Daniel stood by the camp's edge, staring into the stars, whispering her name. He had no idea what was coming, but one thing was clear. That one forbidden night had changed everything. The council's wrath. Sailari stood in the center of a massive silver hall, surrounded by tall Virelian judges dressed in black. The glowing blue floor beneath her feet flickered, reacting to her heartbeat. Her wrists were bound by invisible energy cuffs, and her head was lowered in silence. The High Council of Varelia sat above her, 13 beings with eyes like glass and hearts made of stone. They were the most powerful minds in the Empire, guardians of law, order, and tradition. You broke the first code, the chief elder said, his voice echoing like thunder across the chamber. You shared intimacy with a human. You touched a species beneath us. You polluted your bloodline. Sailari said nothing. Do you deny it? She raised her head slowly. Her voice was soft but clear. No. Gasps filled the chamber. Even the guard stiffened. She admits it, one council member hissed. Then the punishment must be death, said another. But the chief elder raised his hand. Wait. Everyone went silent. She does not look like the others. Her energy is unstable. His eyes narrowed. Bring the biologists. Within minutes, 2 Virelian scientists entered the room with scanners and tools. They moved quickly, running tests, taking blood samples, scanning her skin and eyes. One of them frowned deeply. Her DNA is changing. It is no longer purely Virelian. The other scientist added, it has merged with human strands. Not just mixed, it has created something new. The council members looked at one another with fear and disgust. Impossible, one whispered. Unnatural, said another. Dangerous. Sailari stood quietly, her hands trembling. Her body felt strange lately. Her senses were sharper. Her thoughts were faster. She could hear things far away and feel the emotions of people around her, things she had never been able to do before. She was becoming something new, something that frightened even her. Suddenly, she felt dizzy. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed. The guards moved to pick her up, but the chief elder waved them away. Send her to isolation. Lock her in the cold chamber. We must study her further. As she was dragged out of the hall, Sailari's eyes met the chief elder's. She wasn't sure if she saw fear in his gaze, or interest. Far away, back on Earth, Daniel sat in a dark room filled with monitors. He was no longer in uniform. He had been removed from duty without explanation. They said the peace mission failed, he muttered to himself. But that's not the full story. He had been searching for clues. He reviewed every file, every signal, every strange report about Virelians. One report caught his attention. A secret energy spike detected near the Virelian homeworld. The same day, Sailari disappeared. Daniel's heart pounded. They took her. He knew what that meant. If she was caught, she was in danger, serious danger. He couldn't just sit and wait. Not after what they had shared. Not after that night. He remembered how she looked at him, how she trembled with emotion, how her touch had felt. That night wasn't just physical. It was something more. Something deep. Real. I'm going after her, he whispered. Daniel made his way to a hidden spaceport on the edge of Earth's defense zone. It was illegal for a civilian to take a ship into alien territory. But Daniel wasn't thinking about rules anymore. He contacted an old friend, a tech specialist named Mira, who owed him a favor. You're crazy, Mira said, helping him load the stolen ship. You're going into the heart of the Virelian Empire for a girl. She's not just a girl, Daniel said. She saved my life. She trusted me. I won't leave her behind. Mira sighed. If anyone can pull this off, it's you. Just promise me you'll come back. I'll bring her back, he said, and launched the ship into deep space. Back in Virelian space, Sailari sat in a frozen room with no windows and no warmth. The cold chamber was built to silence the senses, to numb the mind, but it wasn't working on her. Her mind was racing. Her heart beat louder each day. Her body continued to change. In her sleep, she dreamed of Daniel, his voice, his touch, his kindness. Each time she woke up, tears froze on her cheeks. One day, the door opened. The old healer from her childhood, Aerith, entered. You shouldn't be here, Sailari whispered. Aerith knelt beside her. I felt your presence, and something powerful inside you. I've made a mistake, Sailari said, shaking. I broke the code. No, Aerith said, placing a warm hand on her shoulder. You may have saved us all. What do you mean? The Virelians are dying, Sailari. Our bodies are becoming weaker. We have not evolved in centuries. You are evolution." Sailari stared at him, shocked. "I feel something growing inside you," Aerith whispered. "A child, perhaps, or something even greater." Tears welled in Sailari's eyes. "I can't do this alone." "You won't," Aerith said. Outside, the council had made their decision. Inside, Sailari felt the first pulse of something ancient and powerful awaken in her blood. And far in space, Daniel's ship entered the Virelian galaxy, alone, hunted, and determined. The hybrid truth. The silence in the cold chamber was sharp like ice, but inside Sailari's body, a storm was growing. Her skin pulsed faintly with glowing lines, soft blue veins that had never existed before. Her eyes, once a constant violet, now flickered between alien silver and deep human brown. Something had awakened in her, something new, something powerful. She sat cross-legged on the cold floor, hands on her belly, feeling the strange rhythm inside her. It was not just her own heartbeat anymore. It was another. She was not alone. A life was forming inside her, not fully Virelian, not fully human, a hybrid. In the Council's science division, the results from Sailari's blood scan shocked every researcher. High Commander Virel sat frozen as he stared at the analysis. "Impossible," he whispered. "No Virelian has ever produced viable offspring with another species. Our biology rejects foreign DNA." But Sailari had done what was thought impossible. She had not only mated with a human, her body had accepted it. More than that, it had evolved. The DNA strands danced in the holographic display, human and Virelian twisting together, forming patterns never recorded before. It was like a puzzle solving itself, creating something stable, beautiful, and unpredictable. One young scientist stepped forward nervously. "Sir, this might not be a contamination. It might be advancement." Virel turned to him sharply. "You dare call this union and evolution?" The scientist lowered his eyes. "Sir, this hybrid could be stronger than us, smarter, healthier, maybe even immortal." Virel's face twisted with rage. Then it must be destroyed before others learn the same. Back in isolation, Aerith the old healer placed his hand gently over Sailari's belly. "It is alive," he whispered, eyes wide. "And it is aware." Sailari looked at him. "Aware?" "Yes," he said. "It is sensing everything around it. Your fear, your pain, your hope. This child is already more than either of us." Sailari turned her face away. "The Council will never allow this." "Then we must not let the Council decide," Aerith said, his voice calm but firm. "You must escape." Sailari stood up slowly. "I don't even know what I am anymore." "You are a beginning," Aerith replied. "And the child inside you is a bridge between worlds." Far from Virelia, Daniel's stolen ship hid in the shadow of a frozen moon. He had reached Virelian territory, but every space gate was guarded, and every signal could get him killed. Still, he managed to hack into their long-range communications grid using Mira's device. That's when he heard it, a voice. Weak, soft, but familiar. "Daniel, if you can hear me, I'm still alive." His heart jumped. He traced the signal. It came from deep within Virelia's capital moon, inside a secure medical prison. Without hesitation, Daniel activated his ship's cloak and changed direction. He knew the place. It was called the Core, a floating medical lab where the Virelians conducted tests on sick or defective members of their race. If Sailari was there, it meant they didn't see her as a person anymore. They saw her as a problem to be studied or erased. In the Core, the Council's secret decision had already been made. The hybrid must be removed. Virel told the surgeon, "Do it tonight, quietly." But the surgeon hesitated. He had never seen a life form like this one. When he scanned Sailari's body, the child responded. It moved toward the scanner, as if it understood. And when the surgeon placed his hand on her arm, Her body pulsed with warmth, healing a burn mark on his skin instantly. The child had power, real power. Still, orders were orders. At midnight, the surgeon entered the cold chamber with his tools. Sailari was asleep, her breathing slow. But before he could touch her, the walls shook. An alarm screamed across the complex. Daniel had arrived. Dressed in black armor stolen from a Virelian patrol ship, Daniel blasted through the outer gates. He didn't hesitate. He didn't stop. Guards tried to stop him, but his human reflexes were too fast. He had trained for war, and now he fought for love. He reached the lower levels and called her name. Saelari. The door to her chamber exploded open. Sailari sat up, eyes wide. Daniel. He rushed to her side. I'm here. I'm taking you home. But I'm not who I was, she whispered, shaking. There's something inside me. I'm changing. I don't care, Daniel said. I didn't fall in love with your species. I fell in love with you. She stared at him, breath caught in her chest. Then she smiled, the first true smile in weeks. Behind them, Aerith appeared, carrying a bag of medicine and data crystals. I knew you would come, the old healer said. Daniel nodded. We don't have much time. The three of them escaped through a hidden exit Aerith had secretly used in his younger days. It led them to an old ship stored in a cave near the base. As they flew into the stars, alarms echoed behind them, but none of them looked back. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know who would chase them, but they knew one thing. Something had been born that would change the galaxy forever, captured and conflicted. The stars stretched out ahead like rivers of silver as the stolen Virelian cruiser sped through deep space. Inside, the air was tense. Daniel sat at the ship's control panel, steering them toward a safe zone Mira had marked, a hidden human outpost buried in the rings of a gas giant called Eleanor 6. It was far from Virelian territory, beyond the patrol paths, beyond war zones. But it wasn't close. Sailari leaned against a padded wall in the ship's quiet room, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Her skin flickered between pale violet and bluish silver, as if her body couldn't decide what it was anymore. The hybrid child inside her was growing fast, too fast. Her fingers trembled. Her heart beat unevenly. She was scared. Daniel came in with water and food, but Sailari barely looked up. You need to eat, he said gently. She shook her head. It's not hunger. It's something else, like fire in my blood. Daniel sat beside her. We'll make it to Eleanor 6. The doctor's there. They won't know what to do either, she said, voice tight. Because I'm not one thing anymore. I'm mixed, broken. I don't know who I am. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not broken. You're becoming something new. Maybe even something better. She looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. And if I lose control? What if I become a danger? Daniel didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, then I'll still stay by your side. No matter what. She closed her eyes, resting her head on his shoulder. You shouldn't love me. I already do, he whispered. But peace never lasts long in the cold corners of space. A cloaked Virelian war probe had followed their energy trail from the core. It had waited, watched, and now sent a silent signal. The cruiser shook violently. Red lights flashed across the control panel. Daniel rushed to the cockpit. Tracking beacon, damn it, he shouted. We've been found. Moments later, a Virelian interceptor uncloaked above them. Faster, heavily armed. Brace for impact, Daniel screamed. The ship rocked under the blast. Sparks flew. The engines coughed and died. They were caught in a tractor beam. Sailari tried to stand but collapsed. Her pulse was irregular. The child was reacting, pulsing with energy from her stomach to her chest. Daniel held her tightly. I'll protect you. The doors burst open. Virelian elite guards swarmed in, weapons drawn. Do not resist, one said. Daniel stood in front of Sailari. You'll have to kill me first." The guard stunned him with a sonic dart. He fell, unconscious. Sailari screamed. Her body glowed bright blue, a shockwave bursting out from her skin. 2 guards flew back, crashing into the wall. The others hesitated, afraid. But before she could release another burst, the Varelians activated the suppression field. Her energy died out, and she collapsed next to Daniel. Both were taken. They awoke in separate cells, deep inside a floating prison ship called the Spiral Bastion, hidden far from Varelian cities. This was where dangerous secrets were kept, things the Empire didn't want the people to see. Sailari's cell was colder than death. Her body weakened each hour. The child inside her cried out, not with sound, but with emotion. She felt its fear, its confusion, its longing. "Daniel," she whispered. In another wing, Daniel was chained to a wall. The guards punched him, trying to break him. "You are human filth," they said. "You think you can touch one of ours. You think you can steal her." He bled, but his spirit didn't break. "I didn't steal her," he said through gritted teeth. "She chose me." The guards stopped. One of them looked uncertain. "She chose you?" Daniel nodded. "You'll never understand." That night, the Spiral Bastion's internal systems glitched for 5 minutes. The cause? Unknown. But during that time, a hidden figure moved through the vents. An old man in a long cloak. Aerith. He had stowed away on the cruiser before it was attacked, hiding deep in a power shaft. No one had noticed. Now he was moving toward Sailari's cell. He reached her just as the child inside her began to glow again, brighter than ever. Her skin was burning. "Aerith," she groaned. "It's happening." "I know," he said, laying her down gently. "You must stay awake. You must not let go." "What's happening to me?" "Your body is opening," he said. "You are not just carrying a child. You are becoming the next step. This is your evolution." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I can't do this in a prison cell." "You won't have to," Aerith said. Then he pulled a small crystal from his cloak and pressed it into the wall. A hidden signal was sent. Back on Earth, in a small underground human base, Mira's console lit up. The message was short. "She's still alive, but not for long. Send help. Bring fire." Mira stared at the screen. Her hands tightened into fists. "Looks like the war just became personal," she said. Meanwhile, inside the Spiral Bastion, Daniel lay bleeding but smiling. He had seen Sailari's eyes just before being separated. And in them, he saw something more powerful than weapons, more dangerous than laws. He saw hope. Even in chains, even in the dark, hope was something the Varelians couldn't crush. Not this time. Not ever again. The trial of shame. The Spiral Bastion floated silently in the void, but inside, the pressure was building like a storm about to break. Sailari was no longer just a prisoner. She had become a symbol, a traitor to her people, a living scandal. And now, the center of a trial the Varelian Empire broadcast across every world and moon under its rule. The trial of shame. Sailari stood in the middle of a glowing platform in the great judgment hall of Velfar, the capital moon. Her hands were not bound, but she couldn't move. A magnetic field held her in place, visible only as a soft shimmer in the air. Above and around her, tens of thousands of Varelians sat in the tiered arena. Millions more watched on broadcast screens across the empire, all of them staring, judging. Their eyes burned into her like fire. On a high stage in front of her, the council sat again, cold, still, angry. At their center stood Elder Varel, voice sharp like a blade. "We gather here to decide the fate of one who has broken the ancient codes of our blood, one who has mixed her body with a lesser race, the human." Boos echoed through the crowd. Whispers filled the hall. Sailari stayed silent. "This thing inside you," the elder hissed, "is not a miracle. It is a mistake. A curse. Do you deny this? Sailari looked up slowly. Her eyes were tired, her skin pale. But there was fire behind her voice. I deny nothing, she said. I shared a moment of truth with a human. A moment of connection. Of love. The crowd gasped. And yes, I carry his child. The boos became louder. Even some of the council stood in anger. Silence. Elder Varel roared. You disgrace us by speaking of such filth in this sacred hall. But Sailari didn't stop. You fear what I carry, not because it is wrong, but because it proves your rules are broken. You fear change, but change is already here. The magnetic field around her sparked violently, reacting to her rising energy. A faint glow rippled through her skin. Her voice grew stronger. We say we are advanced, but we punish love. We say we are wise, but we fear the unknown. I stand here not as a shame to my people, but as a warning to those who close their minds. For a moment, there was silence. Then a counselor shouted, Do not listen to her. Her child is a threat to our kind. Another voice shouted, She must be purged before it spreads. Sailari fell to her knees, exhausted. The energy drained from her body, but not before her words had been heard. In a hidden chamber beneath the trial hall, Daniel watched the broadcast through a cracked monitor. His arms were still bruised. His escape plan was ready. But he wasn't ready for what he saw next. The council raised a hand, signaling the final stage of the trial. The sentence, Elder Virel said coldly, is public erasure. The child will be extracted and destroyed. The body of the accused will be returned to ashes. Daniel slammed his fist against the wall. No. Guards were already moving toward Sailari on the stage. But before they reached her, the lights died. The entire trial hall dropped into darkness. Then a burst of static filled the air. A new voice echoed through the speakers. People of Varelia, you have watched a trial. But now you will witness a truth. A massive hologram lit up in the sky above the arena. It was Mira, broadcasting from deep space, hacking the signal. The hologram played footage of Sailari saving Daniel, of the attack they both survived, of Daniel risking his life to rescue her from the core, of the child glowing inside her belly. The footage didn't lie. Ask yourselves, Mira's voice said, is this a monster, or is this your future? The crowd fell silent. Even the council didn't move. Sailari looked up slowly. She saw their faces, confused, unsure, afraid. She spoke again. I didn't ask for this. I didn't plan it. But I will not run from it. I will protect this life, even if you all turn against me. At that moment, her body pulsed again. But this time, it wasn't pain. It was power. A soft, glowing wave spread out from her skin, peaceful, warm, and full of life. It touched the hearts of the people watching. An elder Virelian woman in the crowd whispered, She's not destroying us. She's showing us a new path. Another voice said, She's evolved. In the shadows, Daniel moved. He had help now. Mira had opened the side gates remotely. Aerith was waiting outside with a stolen escape craft. As the guards scrambled in confusion, Daniel rushed up the side corridor to the stage. When Sailari saw him, her knees gave way. He caught her before she fell. You came, she whispered. I never left, he said. As they fled the trial hall together, the crowd did not chase them. Some even cleared a path. Something had shifted. Not victory. Not yet. But doubt had entered the minds of the Empire. And where doubt lives, change soon follows. The awakening. The stolen Virelian craft darted through the shadow of a dying star, its engines rattling from the damage taken during the escape from the trial of shame. Inside, Daniel, Sailari, and Aerith sat in silence, each one bruised, exhausted, and breathing heavy. They had escaped, but they had not yet won. Sailari leaned against the cold wall of the ship, her eyes half closed. Her skin shimmered with deep silver now, no longer the smooth violet of pure Varelians. Her breath was short. Her heart raced unevenly. The hybrid child inside her was nearing its final stage. Aerith knelt beside her, checking her pulse, placing his glowing hand over her abdomen. "It is happening faster than I feared," he whispered. "The child is ready. You are not." "What does that mean?" Daniel asked, pacing nearby. "It means her body is trying to birth something it has never known. The life form that exists in 2 dimensions of evolution at once, Birelian logic and human emotion. Her system is breaking apart to make room for it." Sailari tried to speak, but a wave of energy surged through her chest. She screamed, clutching her belly. Her body lifted off the floor, hovering, glowing. Daniel rushed forward. "What's happening to her?" Aerith stood back, eyes wide. "This is not birth. This is awakening." All across the Virelian communication grid, something strange began to occur. Sensors detected massive life energy spikes in the same region, where the stolen ship had disappeared. The pulse was unlike anything the Empire had recorded, neither weapon nor storm. It was a signal, a heartbeat, from the child. Inside a sealed conference room, the High Council stared at the live data stream. Elder Varel's face twitched. "It's her," he hissed. "The child is broadcasting." "But it's not speaking in words," another counselor said. "It's emotions, thoughts, visions." Virel's eyes widened. "It's connecting with us. Through the network, without machines." "What is it trying to say?" one whispered. The youngest scientist present translated it slowly. "It says, I am not your enemy. I am what comes after." Back on the ship, Sailari's body dropped gently to the floor. She opened her eyes, no longer silver or violet. Now they glowed like twin suns. Her voice was calm, otherworldly. "He's ready to be born," she said. Daniel dropped beside her. "You mean the baby?" "No," Sailari whispered. "Something more. Something ancient, but also new." The ship jolted. A massive Virelian warship appeared before them, blocking the path, its weapons powered up. "This is Commander Revis of the Virelian Empire. Power down and surrender the hybrid immediately." Daniel looked to Aerith, then to Sailari. "We can't run." "We won't," she said. She stepped forward, floating gently off the floor, her body shining like stardust. The warship's energy beams locked onto them. Daniel moved to the controls, ready to fight, ready to die. But before the first shot could fire, Sailari raised her hands. From her palms, a wave of light burst outward. No explosion, no sound. Just peace. The warship's lights dimmed. Weapons shut down. Pilots collapsed into their chairs, blinking slowly, confused. And then, the entire crew began to feel. Not pain, not fear. Memories, love, sadness, hope. They saw Daniel as a boy, broken and lonely. They saw Sailari's youth, cold, strict, heartless. They felt their moment under the stars. Their bond, their pain, their choice. It wasn't a weapon. It was a gift. The ship's commander dropped his helmet, breathless. "Stand down," he whispered. This is not an enemy." The Virelian warship lowered its shields. Elsewhere, millions watched the stream through hijacked channels. They saw the transformation. The once shameful alien girl had become something radiant. Not a goddess, not a threat, but a bridge. And the child inside her had just shown the galaxy that understanding didn't require words, just feeling. Sailari collapsed into Daniel's arms. "She needs rest," Aerith said. "Her body is remaking itself again." Daniel held her close. "She's not alone." Back in the council chambers, Elder Virel stood, trembling. "This is how it begins," he whispered, "not with war, but with acceptance." "But what now?" another asked. Virel stared into the stars. Now, we are no longer pure. Now, we are something better. Somewhere deep in space, the unborn child pulsed again. Not just alive. Awake. And it had a message for the future. Love is not weakness. It is evolution. The new legacy. 10 years had passed since the day Sailari glowed like a star and stopped a warship without a single shot. 10 years since the child inside her reached out through space and emotion, connecting minds across an empire. Much had changed since then. The world of Velfar, once known for silence and cold reason, now welcomed laughter, color, and music. The old council hall, once a symbol of judgment, was now a museum. Children of all species came to visit, not to feel shame, but to learn. In a bright valley surrounded by crystal mountains stood a peaceful outpost called Unity's Reach, built on what used to be no man's land between human and Virelian territory. It was there, in a house grown from living stone and light, that a boy with glowing eyes and human features chased butterflies through a blue garden. His name was Kale, the first of his kind, the hybrid child, born of two worlds, raised on love. Inside the home, Daniel stood in the kitchen, older now, his hair streaked with silver, but his posture still strong. He looked out the window at Kale and smiled. 10 minutes and dinner's ready, he called. Kale turned and waved, his hands already glowing with harmless sparks of energy. Okay, Dad. In the other room, Sailari sat beside a communication console, speaking softly to a group of teachers on another moon. No, don't separate the human and Virelian students during emotional training, she said. Let them feel together. That's how the mind grows. She ended the call, stood, and walked into the kitchen, wrapping her arms around Daniel's waist. Still the best cook in 2 galaxies, she said, resting her head against his shoulder. Still the bravest woman I've ever known, Daniel replied with a smirk. They stood together, warm in silence. Later that night, Kale sat at the table, a plate half empty, a spoon twirling between his fingers. He looked up, thoughtful. Mom, Dad. Sailari smiled. Yes, Cal. Do you ever regret it? He asked. The beginning. Daniel and Sailari shared a long glance. There was a time that question would have hurt. Now it brought a quiet peace. Sailari walked to her son and knelt beside him. I once did. I was afraid. Afraid of my people, my own body, and the future. But if I had given in to fear, you would not be here. Daniel added, sometimes the hardest choices look like mistakes to others, but they become the foundation of something greater. Kale leaned forward. I don't feel like I belong anywhere. Not fully Virelian, not fully human. Sailari took his hand. That's because you don't belong to the past, Kale. You belong to what comes next. Outside Unity's reach, more children like Kale played. Some had human skin, some shimmered with alien glow, and others changed color when they laughed. The hybrids were no longer rare, no longer feared. They were growing and guiding. On planets far from Velfar, Virelian parents now taught their children that emotion was not weakness, that logic and love could live together. Human schools taught Virelian meditation, mind focus, and shared empathy sessions. The two species were not just allies anymore. They were family. Years later, Kale stood before a massive crowd at the Intergalactic Harmony Council, the first hybrid ever elected to serve. My mother once stood on a trial platform, shamed for loving a human, he said, his voice calm, powerful. My father once blowed in chains for protecting an alien. I am the result of that pain and that courage. He looked into the cameras, into billions of homes across the stars. Some say I am a miracle. Some say I should not exist. But here I am, proof that peace is not made by words alone, but by hearts willing to break the rules to do what is right. The crowd rose to their feet. A standing ovation. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, on the edge of a garden moon, Sailari and Daniel watched their son speak on a glowing screen. He looks just like you, Sailari whispered. Daniel laughed. I was just thinking he looked like you. She leaned her head on his shoulder. We never meant to start a revolution, she said. No, Daniel agreed. We just fell in love. Above them, the stars shimmered. Once cold, once silent, now full of song. A song of new life, of unity, of a child born from forbidden love, who became the voice of a new galaxy.